A classic car made its way from Idaho to London.
I mean, we fix cars every day, all day for a living, and we've never seen one quite bring this much attention, you know.
We hit the pavement to track down the rightful owner. Plus, the sheriff's concerns over expanding the Canyon County Jail. But first, 3 people murdered.
There's been a terrible crime happen in the Boise area, and I mean a terrible crime.
The work ahead for investigators to track down whoever is responsible.
This is KBOI 2 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Brent Hunsaker. Natalie has the night off. Strong words from the Ada County Sheriff today painting a gruesome picture of the triple murder in the Boise foothills. The sheriff pleading for the public's help. Jacqueline Powell is on the developing story for us tonight. She joins us live.
Sheriff Rainey is asking anyone who's been in certain parts of town during the past few days to come forward with any tips they might have, because he says this crime is so terrible that the murderer deserves to be nowhere but locked away. Ada County Sheriff Gary Rainey says what happened inside this home is the worst crime he's probably ever seen.
It's hard for me to fathom, even as I say, after 31 years of law enforcement, what could possibly motivate somebody to do to these 3 people what they did.
The sheriff is releasing few details on how the 3 family members were violently murdered.
The way that we found them, the violence that had happened, their names and the details will be released by the Ada County coroner eventually, but you'll see that when I say this crime is heinous, that's probably an understatement.
Investigators say they need a lot of help from the public.
Even though we may get thousands of tips, it's just going to take that one that may help us put this to rest and hold those people who are responsible for this responsible and put them in jail.
Sheriff Rainey says deputies are asking anyone who's seen a gold 2003 Subaru Legacy like this one in the past few days to come forward with any details. Deputies believe the car was in the area of the house around the time of the killings. They arrested one person who was found with the Legacy at this Best Buy, but he's in custody for a different crime, not the murder. They're still looking for other suspects.
If somebody has that suspicion, somebody saw somebody who just didn't seem to fit or who acted nervous, or in that car, again a 2003 gold Subaru Legacy station wagon, that wasn't right, whether it be along Cartwright Road, over in the East Boise area, up in the Central Bench area, please call detectives and give us a tip.
Investigators say they believe a violent murderer is still on the loose, and the sooner they can get a lead and get that person in custody, the less of a safety risk for the rest of the community.
I do, with all my heart, hope that we bring this to closure and put these people in jail, because that's where they need to be.
The sheriff's office is also asking any stores or restaurants that are in the area of question to go through their security footage and see if they can spot that vehicle in question. Brent?
Jackie, one more time, where were those areas of interest?
Well, Brent, they were Cartwright Road. That's where the house, where the 3 people were found dead inside, is located, and also East Boise and the Central Bench. Investigators say the Subaru mentioned it was in those areas this week around the time of the murders. Back to you.
Thanks, Jackie. Within the past hour, we learned this is the man who is charged in connection with the triple murder, but investigators aren't saying how Adam Dees is connected. He faces a number of charges, including grand theft and forgery. Detectives had been on this case yesterday for 8 hours before we got word of it. KBOI 2 News asked the Ada County Sheriff's Office if there is a dangerous murderer or murderers on the loose, why the delay? Here's the timeline a spokeswoman gave us. At noon, deputies found the 3 bodies. They had to wait on a search warrant. It wasn't until 7 o'clock that a medical examiner finally determined what happened was a homicide. Then the sheriff's office got to work on the press release, and we got that press release at 8:40 last night. Here's a better look at where the investigation is focused, a home in the foothills. Neighbors say North Cartwright Road is not the sort of place you expect a triple murder.
It's really pretty quiet, very sparsely populated, and I wouldn't have thought anything like this would have happened around here.
The coroner's office has yet to release the identity of those killed or how they died. This sort of crime, no doubt rare in our community, but how rare? Let's take a look at the numbers. The Ada County Sheriff's Office investigated a total of 3 murders from 2010 to 2013. Boise police took on 8 murder cases during those same 4 years. Now, numbers for 2014 have not yet been released. Stay with us for continuing coverage of this triple murder investigation. We're on the air next at 5 a.m. But in between newscasts, you can always head to KBOI2.com. Also be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Tonight, a scare in Idaho Falls after a report of a possible gunman on top of a building in the city. SWAT and state troopers arrived in force. They blocked off a number of streets. Turns out it was a 16-year-old boy who was shooting pigeons on a rooftop. Police say he needed a hunting license for that and shouldn't have been shooting in city limits. No word on whether he'll face charges. The Canyon County Jail is bursting at the seams, but the sheriff is telling county commissioners that their plan to expand it just won't work. For one thing, he says adding another story to the jail would mean housing inmates on 2 levels. That's not industry standard and would require hiring 45 more deputies. And he sees other problems with their plan.
We don't have any counter space, we don't have any office space, and we don't have any staff to expand it.
His suggestion is to go back to Canyon County voters and again ask for the money to build a new jail from scratch.
Hi everybody, I'm meteorologist Roland Stedham. Well, we had a lot of clouds courtesy of a weak storm that has been moving through the area. The storm covering a fairly large chunk of real estate, but it was very, very weak as it moved on through. Just a few little isolated showers. In fact, we do still have a couple of showers to the south and to the west over the Owyhee Mountains of the Treasure Valley. And there you can see it is mostly dry tonight. The storm is just about done doing its thing. Temperatures are going to cool down a little bit tonight. We'll see overnight lows dropping down into the 40s, but look for clearing skies throughout the day tomorrow with high temperatures rebounding to 65 degrees. The warming trend is going to continue ahead of the next storm that moves in toward the end of the weekend. Details on that with the forecast in just a few minutes. Brent.
Roland, thank you. You know, with all this unusually warm, dry weather that we've been having, we've got an early start to the fire season in central Idaho. Crews put out a 15-acre blaze last night. A landowner intentionally set the fire on private land, but it quickly got out of control, spreading into the Payette National Forest. The McCall fire chief says that is cause for concern. These burning conditions are more like those that we usually see in early to midsummer. And of course, it's not even spring yet. Another Idahoan is paying up for 2 fires that got out of control on windy afternoons. The feds collected $88,000 from John Falker, a U.S. attorney telling us that money is the cost of fighting 2 fires near Gooding, one in 2008, another in 2010. Both prescribed burns that escaped onto federal land. An international investigation is underway. How did a classic white Chevy Impala from Canyon County end up abandoned on the side of a busy roadway in London? Nampa police are trying to solve this mystery. So is our Glenn Beebe. He's also looking into it and found out that this case is more complicated than you might think. It's a story you'll see only on 2. Glenn?
Well, that's right, Brent. This story has gone viral as people wonder how a car went from here in Canyon County all the way across the pond, nearly 5,000 miles, to London. The story has gotten even more confusing as we've talked with several people who have said they owned this car at one time or another. The story of an American Impala in London went viral Tuesday after police there said they were going to scrap it if an owner didn't come forward. With Idaho plates still attached, police thought they had found the owner, Carol Cameron, in Nampa. Investigators were still left with several questions.
Over there, unbeknownst to our customs and their customs, it was left at the scene of a crash where it was abandoned.
That news came as a shock to Michael Beckham of Caldwell. That's because he says not only did he restore the car, but also sold it on eBay to a woman in London.
I mean, we fix cars every day, all day for a living, and we've never seen one quite bring this much attention, you know.
Beckham says he bought the rare fastback Impala in August and even showed us pictures of it before it was sold. He says he didn't put the title in his name because he only planned to turn around and sell it. Carol Cameron confirmed it was sold to Beckham, but because the car's title is technically still in her name, she would try to get it back if it was going to be scrapped. Beckham says he didn't realize the issue it would cause. He says he was just excited to sell a car overseas.
Buying and selling cars for probably 30 years or better, and to sell one, you know, international. I thought it was pretty cool, you know.
Beckham gave us copies of the bill of sale with Cameron's signature, the car's title, and the shipping receipt, which shows that back in November the car began its way to jolly old England. And he even explained why the car had to have the original plates.
Transporter said it had to have all the plates on it so they could get it into the customs and across the border.
Today I called the owner in England, who says she has only had the car for 5 weeks because of slow shipping and didn't have time to get the inspections needed for plates and a title transfer in London. I wasn't able to talk to her for very long, but she did tell Michael earlier in the week that she does plan to go and reclaim it.
This is so strange of a story. And I'm guessing it is not over yet.
No, it's long from over. And yes, Sergeant Ramirez says this is a big deal because classic American muscle cars are rare in London and very popular. He says that he did confirm, though, that the car will not be scrapped until investigators on both sides of the pond can figure out what happened.
Oh, my. Strange story.
Yeah, very strange.
Kind of a fun one, too. Okay, Glenn, thank you very much. Okay, on the legislative watch tonight, the teacher career letter bill is held up in committee. The chairman of the House Education Committee says the plan to pay teachers more needs more work.
The cake is still baking, and so we need to give it that opportunity to do so. And so at this point in time, I think it'd be a bit premature because I don't know how it's going to end up.
The $125 million bill that's now in legislative limbo was intended to set standards for teacher accountability and phase in pay raises over 5 years. The development comes just one day before state budget writers are scheduled to set next year's public education budget. Now they'll wait and see what the House committee does. Approved by Idaho lawmakers, $400,000 to kill wolves. The money is for a wolf control board. Last year, the board spent about $140,000 to kill 31 wolves. And a Senate committee introduces a reworked bill to let people use cannabis oil to treat seizures. The proposal still faces opposition from the governor's office, even though it's been reworded as one of the strictest bills of its type in the nation. Road planners ditch a plan to start meetings with a prayer. The Ada County Highway District put an end to the controversy today in a 4-1 vote. ACHD commissioners were deeply divided over the invocation idea. At a meeting last month, several got emotional. You saw one there walk out of the meeting, another quoted from the Bible. The countdown is on for Bronco basketball as they get ready for the Mountain West tournament in Las Vegas. Already league champs, they're looking for more. Brian Levin is live in Las Vegas to introduce us to a player that also takes on the role of helper. Brian?
I'm under the rafters here at the Thomas & Mack Center where this red carpet leads us right out to the court where the Boise State men's basketball team earned the #1 seed and will play tomorrow at 1 o'clock Mountain Time. Now to get to that lofty place, it's taken a lot of practice and hard work. And a man beyond the bench and beyond the court was actually a key cog on the blue turf as well. He added the extra points to Bronco touchdowns, but now Dan Goodale is quietly adding extra support to the basketball team.
My managerial job is harder than my kicking job. I do a lot more as a manager than I did as a kicker at practice.
The now former Boise State kicker turned student manager won the Mountain West on the gridiron and also on the court.
Just a little bit of double dipping. Everyone always says, you know, once I got done with football, it's like, oh, you're smart getting over with basketball now so I can get my fill of athletics.
But Goodale's goal stretches beyond rebounding during practices and warm-ups.
Dan's going to be a great basketball coach, and he wants to become a basketball coach. So, you know, we love the crossover, getting Dan out here.
And apparently everyone loves the Boise native.
He's a stealthy rebounder on scout team. He's a sniper from out in the corner on the three. And you know what? He's got a lot of heart.
But Goodale is using his experience as manager to set him up down the road.
I'm going to obviously pursue my goals to play in the NFL, but I understand that that doesn't last forever, so I'm setting up what I want to do after, and it's definitely going to involve basketball.
Now, Goodale also played basketball at Timberline High School in Boise. He says it's always been his favorite sport, even over football. And as Coach Rice mentioned, Dan hopes to one day become a coach. Now, I'll be back in sports with highlights from the Broncos women's game, playing for a spot in that Mountain West Tournament Championship contest. We'll send it back to you for now.
Look forward to seeing you again in just a few, Brian. Coming up, a milestone for NASA, the history made today in northern Utah. And don't forget, if you see news happening, send us an email. Our address is news@kboi2.com.
You're watching KBOI 2 News at 10.
Covering the West now, we begin with a major milestone for NASA.
3, 2, 1, fire.
We have ignition of NASA's space launch.
In northern Utah today at Thiokol, the space agency's largest and most powerful rocket booster passed its first test. Successful ignition for 2 minutes. NASA hopes the booster could one day push spacecraft into deep space, far enough to visit asteroids, even Mars. More destruction could be soon coming to California. The U.S. Geological Survey is warning of a major earthquake, a megaquake, in fact, perhaps within the next 30 years. The new report says California is at higher risk for a high-magnitude quake of 8.0 or greater. Scientists say new information shows quakes can start on one fault, but then skip over to other faults. That doesn't sound like fun. What does sound like a little fun would maybe be a few raindrops. Thanks, Roland.
Okay.
Fishermen, take note. 50,000 rainbow trout have just been released into the CJ Strike Reservoir. That's southwest of Mountain Home, and a very popular spot for fishing. The trout are each about 10 inches long and ready for you to reel them in. Sports is coming up next. Well, we couldn't leave you without showing you another round of llama drama, this time in Nebraska. Caitlin Bazies just got the animal on Sunday. It broke loose the very next day, took off. She already has one llama, didn't want him to be lonely, so she bought him a friend.
I wanted to get him a wife, but women are crazy. She's crazy.
She said that, not me. The owner is not sure if now she wants to keep this llama. She's worried no one else, though, will want it either after all this trouble.
They're rambunctious, aren't they?
And they're very agile, too, and can go pretty fast.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, our forecast looks like we're going to be seeing temperature readings in the morning starting out in the mid-40s. It's going to be mild. It's going to be a beautiful sunny day tomorrow with highs hitting the mid-60s. Wow.
Our morning show crew will be back here bright and early, 5 a.m. Have a great night.
Take the news with you on the radio. News Talk 670 KBOI. And for news and information 24 hours a day, click on KBOI2.com.